The views are out of this world.
This thing is unbelievable. It sounds incredible.
Golly gee, everybody, look at that.
Now, if you would have told me about a month ago that I would be here, about 100 kilometres north of Melbourne, nestled deep in the valley of 1,000 hills, on a manicured cricket pitch that looks as though it was plucked from Lords of London itself, I would have said you were mad. But here we are, and you know what? It really works. A little slice of history that's been reimagined and modernised, but still very true to its heritage. And I guess it ties in a lot to what we're going to be doing today. So in the same way the cricket ground is a modern reimagining of a classic, this is the Mercedes-Benz EQE EQE53, the latest high-performance, all-electric sports sedan from the oldest automotive manufacturer on the planet. Now, when I say sports sedan, let me run some numbers by you. This thing's got a 91 kilowatt-hour battery, which is good for around 500 kilometres worth of range. It's got upwards of 500 kilowatts worth of power and 1,000 newton metres of torque. For some context, that's almost double what you get out of a V8 Ford Mustang. Not bad for a quiet run down memory lane.
Okay, so two Mustangs may be pushing things, but whatever way you look at it, the EQE AMG offers some staggering performance combined with some pretty amazing technology. The EQE53 features a pair of electric motors, one front and one rear, that, in delivering all that power, can offer you a 3.3 second sprint to 100 kilometres an hour. The car has all-wheel drive, four-wheel steering, seating for 5 and even a big boot. But if you want things that look as well as sound cool, take a peek inside.
Now, before we go anywhere, check this out. This is the Hyperscreen, which is in fact 3 separate screens under the one continuous pane of glass. You've got a 12.3-inch screen there, which is a touchscreen for the passenger. You've got this massive 17.7-inch touch display here for the navigation and audio and all the main car functions, and another 12.3-inch digital display for the driver. Now, all of them can be configured and can do plenty of different things while you're on the move or while you're standing still and charging your car. Pretty impressive technology. Let's go. Now, as we said at the cricket ground this morning, one of the things that we can learn about this part of Victoria is that so much of the history of the area is still absolutely prevalent, but there are ways that it has been, I guess, modernised and updated to suit what's happening today. Case in point, as we come along the highway into Yea, you can see a cycleway on the side of the road. Now, this is the Great Victorian Bike Ride, and it is, as the name would give away, an old rail trail. And basically what that was the railway line used to run into the high country areas right up until I think the 1970s or so. But as road transport became the prevalent way of moving goods around, the train stopped running, but the railway line was still there. So what they did is they converted that into a low-grade cycle path. So you've got limited inclines and declines, you've got cool bridges and tunnel infrastructure already there, and it's now a brilliant way to discover parts of the state on a bike. Now, this really is a spectacular part of Victoria. The Valley of 1,000 Hills that we saw earlier really could be used to describe anywhere around this high country region. Here we are now, we're in autumn. You've got the dry summer is starting to sort of dissipate a bit. It has been a reasonably wet winter, so it's not dry, but the yellow hills, the green foliage, it's a beautiful part of the state. And the roads are just terrific and find themselves winding their way through. Now, of course, the big question is, how is it touring in an electric car?
Our drive today takes us from the village green oval in Strath Creek along the edge of the Victorian high country to the historic town of Euroa. Be sure to stop at Murchison Lookout on your way through to grab the best views of the Valley of 1,000 Hills. See if you can count them all. It's a stunning part of the country, full of rolling fields and pastoral land, but ultimately for our story, allows us to discover a few other things that have been altered and reimagined for a more modern world. Before we get too far though, we need to stop in Yarck for lunch.
Here we can see a producer choosing a pie with such devout attitude to the ingredients and what's going in it, all with sauce. Now that's the right answer, just in case anyone asks. We've taken a quick break from the drive to stop in Yarck for some lunch, and I would actually go as far as to say that stopping in Yarck it's not a choice, it's mandatory. This is the best place to stop on any trip to the Victorian High Country, and I would kind of hazard a guess that most of you who've been up this way have already stopped here, as you should keep doing. Now, one of the best things that you can do is eat at one of the local places. There are some great bakeries in town, which of course comes with its own challenge. What do you get after the pie that you've already had for lunch? Well, here's some advice. Now, you're always going to be spoiled for choice in any country bakery, but these are our 3 tips. Lemon jam tart, simple, elegant, very tasty, can't go wrong. Of course, the Australian classic, the snot block, the vanilla slice. Now, your eyes are always going to be bigger than your stomach here. They are always guaranteed to satisfy in many ways. But I'd like to introduce you to a dark horse, the monkey face. It's a biscuit, it's jam, it's got sprinkles. It's the best of all worlds. Any of these 3 make a superb choice for your after-lunch treat. But I will say, ensure there is an adequate break between eating these and heading for some twisty roads. And whatever you do, don't eat them in the car. No one wants to clean up that kind of mess. All right, that said, the crew are going to eat these and we'll get back on the road. Now, this is something that we're really wanting to, make obvious in this season of Drive TV, that touring around Australia in an EV is not as difficult as people would make you think. On today's run, our EQE has a range of around 500 kilometres. We are well within that range for our charging plan. We know exactly where we're going to stop. Our drive today isn't all that long, but what it means is that we can just sit back and relax and enjoy the drive. And in a car like the EQE with a very low centre of gravity, it really is a great car to enjoy the drive in.
Mama just hung her head and said, son, Papa was a rolling stone.
We've got a short run along the Maroondah Highway through the little town of Yarck up to Merton, where we will turn off and head to Euroa. And what I will say is that is the part of the drive that I'm looking forward to the most, and where this being an AMG will come in, I guess, the most handy, because it is a ripper stretch. But for now, we're on the highway. We've got a little bit of 2-lane blacktop to enjoy. I might turn up the music and just relax. Now onto our EQE. Obviously, some of the impressive technology that has come onto this thing has been shrunk down from the larger EQS that we saw Trent drive last season. But a lot of the features have actually made their way onto this car, and it kind of works really, really well. We've got 4-wheel steering, which for stability at high speeds and manoeuvrability around town makes this thing an absolute dream to park. And the other question you may be having is, aren't all these screens and that giant piece of glass, aren't they distracting while you're driving? And the answer is no. Like, I can quickly see this map. It is enormous. You can reach down, you can move things around, you can tap to a screen that you need. Your eyes don't need to leave the road because the screen is that big. You're not sort of fumbling for a smaller area. But it's worth noting that I also have a head-up display there. I can configure this instrument cluster to display not only what's happening with my speed, but I can change it to a driver assistance mode where it will show me all of the elements around the car, like other traffic, where the lanes are, which is actually pretty cool. I can keep an eye on my battery range, and I can basically make sure that we're all under control. until I turn on the AMG sports mode. So when we get to the fun stretch, there's a button down here which allows me to put the car into Sports Plus. I've got two dials and screens here on the steering wheel where I can choose some of the more performance-oriented features of the EQE53, which includes the noise that it makes. And you may say, James, this is an electric car. Why on earth would it be making noise? Well, let me show you, and I'm not sure we can hear it from there. How about that? So what Mercedes have done is made the car a little bit more engaging and a little bit more fun by having a synthetic noise amplification that happens not only inside the car, but outside the car as well. And I guess this is where we're seeing the modernisation and the advancement in technology having a bit of fun at, I guess, the more historical elements of the car. Because yes, an AMG, we normally associate that with a snarling, angry V8. But here, well, it doesn't quite sound like a snarly, angry V8, but it certainly has the pace of one.
So we've already established the fact that things are gonna be different in the future, babe. And you've reiterated the fact that you don't want to get into something that's just gonna have to end later. Now I know our lives are changing and I've seen it coming for a while too, don't get me wrong. And I've been going out of town, baby, it's gonna happen more.
Now the beauty of an electric car, especially as a sports sedan, on a road like this means that you've got instantaneous response always. So we can be on the brakes into a slightly tight corner here and then power out of it. Now we're taking this quite gingerly, but there is no hesitation in what the EQE can do along here. It really is a fun environment for a car like this. And that's remembering that an EV is heavy. And so coming through here, we do feel quite planted. We do feel really solid on the road, and winding down through here, it's a great run. Now you can probably hear the car making its noises in there. I've got it on a relatively conservative setting, so it's not getting in the way of us talking. But I tell you what, this Sports Plus mode in the EQE gives it such an entertaining level of response that on a road like this, it is terrific. And I want to be clear too, this is a very tight road. So we've got some well-signed advisory speed limits on corners that are very, very important to take heed of, even in a car like this one. It is one of the greatest little driving stretches, I think, in Victoria, if not Australia. There's very little traffic out here. You've got that spectacular granite outlook, and the EQE is just loving it through here. Oh, well, what a great run. We're now down at the bottom of the hill here. So it's worth pointing out a couple of fun things. So I've got paddle shifters on here, and you may say, James, that's a bit silly. This car doesn't have any gears. But what it allows you to do is change the Regen braking force. So you can leave the car in an automatic mode, which is its standard, or you can make it even more aggressive as you come off the throttle for the car to automatically brake and try and regain some more power. Also down here on the steering wheel, I've got these two dials that allow me to go through, and this one I can preset with a number of different features. I can put the car into its sports suspension mode, into its sports performance mode, and you can even configure an individual drive mode, so you can have it set just the way you like it for the roads that you're driving on, which I think is a really, really great thing. And of course, that's not limited to the EQE. We see that across many Mercedes-Benz models and many models of other brands. It's a really cool way that technology is evolving and allowing us to enjoy storied brands like Mercedes-Benz well and truly into the future. this is a nice little circuit breaker after that fun run down the hill in the AMG. And in fact, it's a bit of a hidden gem that only locals seem to know about. It was actually a local that told us where it was and how to get here when we stopped for a drink in Yarck. This is Polly McQuinn's, a natural granite rock formation with rock pools, running water, and a spectacular little waterfall. It really is a beautiful little oasis in the middle of lower high country Victoria, and an absolutely worthy detour.
Located almost smack dab in the middle of Victoria, the historic town of Euroa splits its outlook between flat grazing land to the northwest and the Strath Ranges to the southeast. The township features many heritage buildings and is famously home to the National Bank, robbed by the notorious bushranger Ned Kelly in 1878. While the town still supports the local farming and grazing community, like many facets of this drive, it too has adapted for more modern times, with many leading racehorse studs now calling the region home. Even our accommodation has evolved with the times.
Well, every road trip needs a destination, which is why we found ourselves here at the historic Euroa Butter Factory. This beautiful building you see behind me has been absolutely stunningly restored and is now a bed and breakfast, so we're going to look forward to staying here, and we'll probably pop into town for a tasty parma just to wind out a great day.
Built in 1901 to service the booming dairy industry, the Euroa Butter Factory operated until 1951. It has now been refurbished into a beautiful bed and breakfast and function venue, inviting a whole new generation of visitors to experience and enjoy the historic region. Euroa may have officially been the end of our drive, but it's not the end of our journey. As just a short drive up the road, we can introduce our Mercedes to its own history at the Museum of Vehicle Evolution in Shepparton. One of the largest transport museums in Australia, the Museum of Vehicle Evolution, or MOVE, showcases everything from push bikes, motorcycles, cars, buses, and even trucks, all under one roof at a brand new facility on the outskirts of Shepparton in central Victoria.
MOVE Museum opened in September 2021. We have had a museum here on the site since February of 2012. We had a smaller community-based motor museum, Shepparton Motor Museum and Collectibles. And then with input from the transport industry and a desire to expand the offering we had here, the new Museum of MOVE evolved from that. So at any one time, we've got approximately sort of 60 motor cars, 40 to 50 different trucks from sort of prime movers to smaller commercial vehicles, and usually sort of 8 or 9 buses as well. Buses sort of forming part of the commercial vehicle display as well.
In terms of a special exhibition, what is the most, the most standout vehicle you've got on display?
I guess currently it would be hard to go past a FX prototype, one of 2 surviving FX prototypes, an Australian assembled Holden FX prototype, actually built in sort of 46, so 2 years ahead of the actual production.
So Australia's first car?
First fully built in Australia car, that's right.
And you've got a VF2 Holden Commodore, so from the first Australian car through to the last Australian car?
That's it, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Bookended.
One of the best things about the MOVE exhibition is getting right up close to some of the trucks. Now, we all see them on the road every day, but nothing can really prepare you for the context of sheer size you get when standing next to them.
Well, there we go, another brilliant drive taking in the best of what the future has to offer while remembering the history of where we've come from. From the high country through here to central Victoria, there is absolutely something for everyone to enjoy, regardless of whether your Mercedes is brand new or 65 years young.
Our drive today started at the Village Green Oval located in Strath Creek. From there, we wound our way along the C725 to Yarck for lunch. Here we hit the Maroondah Highway and traced the old rail trail through Yarck to Merton, where we turned onto the C366 to Euroa. Then it's a winding run through Strath into Euroa, where we stayed at the Butter Factory. The Move Museum in Shepparton is just a pleasant 40-minute run north. Coming up next week, Trent finds out that hybrids don't need to be slow or boring and takes the magnificent Ferrari 296 GTB out for a quick coffee and then all the way to the finish line.